Hello and welcome to another show, podcast series with me, Mr. Vee from MrVeesworld here on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and please make sure to rate this podcast series up with 2 thumbs up. If you got 3, that's even better. Be sure to subscribe as well if you're a new listener. All right, let's get things going. Today, you know what? I'm going to talk about black people in America as one subject matter. I'm going to try to squeeze 3 subjects in a podcast. I've never done that before. One is black people in America having a tough time not wanting to pull the race card, and we'll get to that in a second. The second aspect of that is dating, as I always like to talk about these sort of things. Dating in America versus the foreign women thing. And you know I talk about this quite a bit because you guys like it. And the third thing is a surprise. Okay, now let's get to the first subject. I got an email. I received a message, actually, a personal message from a subscriber who I won't mention their name, but he is a black young male. And he was basically stating that he's in a situation where he's not really being fully accepted by black folks and white folks because he's not enough of one or the other, which is, I understand, actually, you know what? I understand what he's talking about. The crux of the problem is he's an intelligent gentleman who, unfortunately, the stereotypical view of black Americans, of which I'm black, as you can tell, we don't get the greatest reception. We're not perceived in any other kind of way other than the typical stereotype, which I don't need to mention, and I don't need to really back that up, but you know what I mean. He was saying and is saying that he has a problem being accepted just as a person, as who he is, because he does not fit said stereotypes. He mentions that he's been turned down for dates with anyone, or some people rather, who happen to not be black. Maybe they're Caucasian or something other, maybe Latin, Asian, and so on and so forth. But he was saying, hey, you know, it's difficult because in America, if you don't fit a certain mode, then no one knows how to, certain mold, a box, no one knows how to perceive you, and no one wants to deal with you. I kind of agree that does occur. It's not right. But this gentleman is very sincere that he was raised a certain kind of way, believing that people are judged on the merit of their character. And unfortunately, it sounds like he has had a rude awakening in this department over the last few years. He mentioned an incident on his job that a person literally said to him that he's too white for the position, or something to that accord, even though he's black. He has black features, he's black. But because he does not, again, but the typical stereotypical facade and role and demeanor and behavior of what is expected, he gets lambasted in this regard. But the funny thing, which is not funny, ha ha ha, but funny as in peculiar, is it bled over into his dating experiences. And he basically said, yeah, he's having a tough time. And I can relate to this because when I grew up in the 70s and the 80s in California, the Northern Bay Area, San Francisco, very progressive place, by the way. If I were to ever visit my cousins and extended family, of which there are many, I would get teased for speaking proper English, which I'm sorry, I'm not going to change that. But I also grew up in a multicultural neighborhood. And I did not grow up in the hood, and I did not grow up in the ghetto, if you want to put it that way. Not that there's something absolutely wrong with that, but that was not my upbringing experience. So, of course, I'm going to have some experiences that reflect upon that, whether it be by my interest or how I talk or sound or whatever. So when this gentleman wrote to me, I understand him. I understand what he's saying. And here's what I like to put out there. And this does not matter if you're not black, or maybe you're Hispanic or Asian or even Caucasian. It doesn't matter. You must be who you are and accept who you are. And if you cannot be who you are and be yourself, then sorry, I'm speechless, actually. I'm at a loss for words, which is rare right now because I can't fathom not being who I am personally. So my suggestion is, A, don't hang out or be around people that are so simple-minded and small-minded as such. And B, own up to who and what you are. And if you are an intelligent person, be intelligent. Okay? If you are this and or that, be that. Because it's just, we're only here for a split moment. If you think about it, your life is just not really life in general is not worth worrying about what other people do. But I'm kind of segueing into something else, so let me stay on track. It's problematic. It's clearly problematic for this person because they wrote some generalized things, but they really took out the time, which I appreciate, by the way. I know you're listening, so I want to tell you personally, thank you so much for taking out the time to write to me and ask me my thoughts and advice. And I find that to be a big responsibility. So I really want to take care in answering that for you, or whatever I can put out there to you. But being black in America, again, it's tough. It's tough because if you, again, break out of the stereotype, then you're not accepted by your own people fully. And then sometimes white folks don't know what to make of you. And if you stick to the stereotype, then obviously you're screwed because, oh, there they go. There those people go doing what those people always do, typical X, Y, and Z behavior. And where do you draw the line, and how does one sort of rise above that? Now, I want to say this to anyone who is not black and who happens to be, let's say, Caucasian, for instance. This thing about the race card, okay, I've noticed in the last maybe 10 years of this subject being passed along very easily in the public domain, on the internet, on YouTube, and some of the comments that I've read. It seems like white people back when affirmative action was in play and Jesse Jackson was pushing for this when he was running for president in 1984, in case you guys were not around then, I was there. It seems like that was a big pill to swallow for the Caucasian population of America. But because of, political correctness, as it were, no one spoke about it. But it's obvious that white people in general are sick and tired of the race card being pulled on them or being put out there in general. I can relate. Even though I'm not white, I don't want to be white. I'm not white. But I can relate because I've heard it myself too. And at this point in time, with a black president in office for a second term, mind you, there's no need for the race card. Affirmative action has been around for almost 30 years in action period. So F the race card BS, okay? If you can't make it on your own accord, then, you're SOL. Sorry, you're shit out of luck. So that needs to stop. I don't blame white folks for being upset and tired of it because it is very tiresome. Now, this is not to say that the race card, when it's pulled or if it's pulled, let's put it that way, is not applicable to said situation. However, on the whole, we're beyond that. We should really move forward from that. Now, let's leave that alone for a moment. Let's get to the foreign woman / American woman dating thing. Again, and I segue because the gentleman in question who wrote me about this, and the reason I'm doing this podcast is based on what he wrote. He mentioned that, again, he if and when he attempted to date someone who was not who was not black, he met resistance. And said the only time he hasn't met said resistance is when he pretty much put it out to someone who was not American, who had a different nationality altogether. And they really did appreciate the fact that he was not stereotypical black guy, and what he does or what he thinks or his politics or how he presents himself. They were very amenable and open to him as a person, which sounds like he is not so received by American women or girls. Now, that's his personal experience. It's not my personal experience. I don't know, because I'm from a different mindset or a different age group, or if I'm in a different milieu. But where I'm from, that honestly has never been an issue. But I can only imagine if you're not from California or progressive San Francisco Bay Area, and you may be from somewhere in the middle of America or even the South, you may have said experience. So I'm not going to detract from that. But getting back on point, in my journey and my discoveries, especially abroad, and most of you know that I do travel abroad and I like living abroad. The women over there, when I say over there, I mean it could be anywhere. Mainly I've been to places like Southeast Asia and most of Europe. I have encountered a different species of females who, especially in Europe, and probably not all of Europe, of course, but at least in the places I've been in the West, Germany and, Greece, Italy, Holland, especially England. If you are a person from America, you will notice it's a world of difference. It does not matter your nationality to them. They are not focused on status or race or color, and they just take you for you and the person in front of them. So it's a breath of fresh air times 100. Let me tell you something. My girlfriend, who is German and Polish, she brings something to the table that you just don't see every day here in America. And when she has been interviewed by me a couple times, there's a couple of videos on YouTube. Her name is Izzy. She gets... I can't tell you, she gets lots of responses from men of all around the world, especially from America, who give great accolades because they're not accustomed to seeing a girl with personality and looks and charms and intelligence, who is approachable and who's present and there, not princess-esque, or psychotic. Now, okay, before any American girl or woman who's listening wants to berate what I just said, let me put it in context so you understand. Men, guys here in America, I would say, and I would safely say, 75% of them, at least the ones who are aware, they have major concerns and problems with the dating sphere and interacting with women and girls that are Americanized, are from America. Now, I'm not trying to detract from anything that American girls have to offer or American women have to offer. Each one of them may have their own individual awesomeness. But on the whole, the way the law is set up, the way feminism has been structured and misused, abused, for men, it's a losing battle. Period. And otherwise, you would not have shows like Tom Likas, who's, at first I thought this guy was a pompous ass. But now that I listen to him, or have listened to him many times actually, he makes sense. And he can be crude and rude, but the guy makes sense. And a lot of men here in America have followed suit. And getting back on track with this particular gentleman, he asked me, or actually pointed out that in his area there that he lives, there aren't too many nationals or international ladies. And that seems to be his preference, to at least attempt to put it out there, as I say, with them with a higher degree of success, as at least having a chance, versus in America, which is, quite honestly, we have come a long ways from where we have been in the 50s and 60s. But racism still exists, and also there's a class system that is in place that exists. It's unspoken, but it's there. So we're still like behind the times as far as the rest of the world is concerned, how we interact with one another and whatnot. Now, not to say that the rest of the world is perfect and we suck badly, but we're actually not as progressive as we should be. So let's just take a look at that, maybe in another podcast. So ladies, I apologize to you if you are American. I'm not trying to downgrade you straight up. I have made videos where I pretty much was to the point and cut and dry, and I will own up to that. And I do believe that there is a certain segment of American women that ultimately suck. They suck because they're not feminine anymore. They swear like sailors. They don't cook. They don't want to clean. They screw over men just because they can, because they have a vagina and they have an ass, period. Because honestly, for most men, I can speak for them, 98.25%. If you did not have the biology that you were born with, we would not deal with you. There would be no need to deal with you. And I'm not a woman hater. I'm a woman lover. But I'm a woman disliker of female superiority that's based on their tits and their ass. They rely on that. You take that away, you got nothing. You got nothing that we want, that's for sure. So keep that in mind. Back to my man who messaged me. This podcast is dedicated to you. I think that you, from what you wrote and how you wrote, you're a very bright individual. And I think you'd be a catch for any woman anywhere in the world that has common sense. So keep your chin up, man. And if you get the chance, you got to travel. You got to leave the country and see how other people live their lives, especially how women treat you. You know, they treat you how a man is supposed to be treated, like a man. And in turn, I'm sure you're going to treat her like she needs to be treated like a woman. And that's what it's all about. So this is Mr. V from MrVeesworld. I appreciate your time tuning in with me today, this afternoon, or this morning. And you can find me on YouTube under Mr. Vee's World. That's VeeSworld. If you like what you heard, please comment. Always love to see those. And I'll talk to you guys later. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.